this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I won't forget the lessons that I don't deserve, because on the street over there's a life I couldn't know would have kept me from the one I love today.
Thank you for joining us on this blustery cold morning as we get ready for Snowmageddon. You know it's coming, Shawn.
Ooh, I hear.
It's so fun. It is so fun. At school, I love being a teacher because I get to play in that world of snow days, and it's just a blast. And
Well, we get to play in snow days too. So when they call school, we call our office because we don't want anybody in a parking lot.
well, see, and that's the thing. And when I was working at the church, that's kind of like the standard for churches as well, because we were at the Benevolence Center, and I worked at Madison Church Christ. I was full time there for about 7 years before I, kind of between my anyway, that's for about 7 years. And so when they called me up to teach. But that was the same thing. If school was out, we had to close down the Benevolence Center because our parking lot would be like and it would be a sheet of ice sometimes. And also, too, we had Meals on Wheels, and a lot of the folks that deliver Meals on Wheels are older.
Yep.
And you did not want them out because they will hurt themselves. Sunday, they called off church at Madison, and the reason why is because so many people will not miss church if the doors are open because they feel like it's going to doom them. Grace has got you guys. Just do the best you absolutely can. That's all that God's asking from you. Just the best you can every day. And so, but so many, I was raised that way. If the doors are open, don't forsake the assembly. That very legalistic. And so they know that so a lot of the older folks, they're going to push themselves and come out, and we just don't want somebody to get hurt.
Oh, broken hips.
Come up on that microphone.
Broken hips, broken.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Broken arms, broken.
Well, and a lot of the times for the older generation too, and I say, I'm 62. I say that to my students at school, and they just look at me like, I was telling them yesterday, we were talking about broadcasting and the changes, and I said, I started in radio in 1980, and the kids just looked at me like I was
so far beyond where they are.
It was hysterical, the looks I got. I got so tickled. No, but the older generation, you can have, my father-in-law is a good example. He had a broken bone that he never recovered from. He's in surgery, and that's how he died. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of the times will be the injury that takes them from us. And so I've just had my shoulder replaced. I've got to be careful as this stuff comes in because I do not want to fall.
That's right.
So
we closed on Wednesday, or I'm sorry, Tuesday, whatever day that it started snowing a little bit. The EMA was talking about slick roads. Our parking lot was already a sheet of ice. And so we just said, you know what, we have 6 appointments. We went ahead and closed and sent a couple of my girls home because they live kind of out. And I got to take care of my staff too, and so we closed at lunchtime, 1, something like that. But we just made sure that everybody was safe, and if somebody needed something, we could get it to them before we closed. So that's what our plan will be for tomorrow. I've already started formulating my plan. We got moms and babies and kids that need things, but we're going to go ahead and get them taken care of tomorrow. So Friday.
And I pulled up. I don't watch I don't watch the news
either,
or anything anymore. But I pulled it up.
It's pretty convincing.
Yeah, I pulled it up yesterday just so I could get kind of a time frame. And I can't remember the girl's name. I love Channel 5. I love Lena.
Bree.
Yeah, I think that's her.
Bree.
She's so good. They're so good over there, and all of them are good. And I haven't called Bill Jones yet, but my plan is to see if I can get Bill Jones in here tomorrow morning from 7 to 7:30 because he's our local weatherman. And so I'm going to reach out to Bill and see if I can get him in the morning just to kind of give us an overview. But basically what they were saying is Friday morning, it may not be here yet. It may not come in until about midday. But I can vividly remember, this is back when my kids were at Good Pasture, and I had taken over the management of the school bus. Now, I took a turn at driving the bus for a while to help out with my tuition to Good Pasture. But at this time, we had a lady that was driving, and I can't remember her name. And they got to school, and it came in, and I mean, it was awful. Middle of the day. Of course, I'm doing traffic and trying to deal with all that, telling people will abandon their cars. And I mean, they will abandon their cars and walk away. And what she was saying is don't let the Monday morning lack of snow fool you because it's coming and it is going to be the stuff that is going to be wet. It's going to be great for snowballs and snowman, but it's going to be a sheet of ice.
Yep.
And it's going to stay cold, and there's going to be some nice, pretty fluffy stuff on top of it. But she was saying, absolutely get that stuff off your sidewalk as it's coming down. Because if you don't, you're going to have a treacherous walkway until this stuff melts. So I loved her. She was given being married to a Yankee as I am. And I mean, we're talking practically a Canadian, guys. He's so far north from where he's from. He's the same. He'll get out and he will clear walkways as it's coming down because he knows, but just Snowmageddon's coming, y'all. But it's only got 2 to 4 inches.
Yeah.
So that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's ice. Yeah.
It's ice stuff going.
Yeah.
We, we were, the year that happened, LaVern, I was a nurse at Dr. Lewis and Sparks' office in Greenbrier, and I'll never forget, we got a call that said that our kid's bus couldn't be found. And so my daughter was on a bus and the lady had gotten stuck, and they found the bus, but my husband was one of the firemen in Ridgetop at the time, and he had to go out and find them. And I was just, as a mom, I was just terrified. Yes. Yeah. But it had gotten stuck over a railroad track, and it came down very quick.
Dear God.
It was
How
bad.
horrifying.
It was bad. Yeah, it was, she was little. So, I mean, I want to say she was first, second grade, something like that. But no one really thought it was going to do anything. And then it just kind of went boom. And within a couple hours, it was bad. So, we'll just pray for folks not to
be careful,
not to be panicked or fearful.
Red milk, go get it.
Yeah, I think we're gonna run to the new Publix and White House today.
So there you go. Let's go.
Yeah, let's get our stuff done. That's right.
I'm supposed to go to. We're supposed to have. I was on a basketball team that went to state back in I'm wanting to say it was probably 78. We went to state. I can't remember. But they're having a reunion of the teams because I'm from Lowe's High School, and then Sedalia also, I think, went at one point, and there are some of the county schools, and we're supposed to be having like this reunion at Graves County High School Friday night. Well, they've moved it now to Thursday night. And I want to go so bad because, number one, we lost one of our players, passed away over the summer, and funeral was middle of the day. Would have loved to have just seen my friends from back in that, because I've lost touch with them, except for one or two of them. And so I was thinking, and I'm contemplating getting out of school and driving to Mayfield, on Thursday night. So y'all pray for me and that decision as to whether or not I should. It's one of those things, you hate to miss something like that, but in the same sense, that's a school night. If they would go ahead and call off school on Friday, I'd do it. But I don't know.
Wink, wink.
Do you think I should go?
I do.
Yeah, because it's 2 hours there and 2 hours back.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Yeah. You can't get that back. And I'm going to be honest, that's one of the things that I'm working on with, We had a big staff meeting for the first of the year at the end of last week, and this week we talked about, those moments.
Yeah.
And
you can't get them back, like you said.
You can't get that stuff back. So.
Yeah, so I don't know, y'all. I'll talk. I'm going to be praying about it and just saying, okay, Lord, do I need to go? My husband's like, no, we're school night. But anyway, I'm sorry. This is my friend. I tell everybody, we come in here and we're just talking on the porch, chit-chatting, and we will get around to the thing that I brought her in here for. But it's just fun just to catch up with you. Absolutely. And full disclosure, you were the only one that remembered this is actually the second Wednesday. Because, just in your head, last Wednesday was New Year's.
It didn't count.
It wasn't the first Wednesday. Count. Yeah, exactly. And so I messaged Shawn. I said, hey, I've got you on the schedule for tomorrow. And she goes, no, I'm first Wednesday. And I was like, oh, yeah. And so I messaged Rachel with staypositive.news. And I said, hey, you're on the schedule tomorrow. And she's like, she had forgotten too. And they just moved.
Oh, and she goes, her.
Yeah, she goes, my life is I've just moved Sunday because they bought a new house.
Bless her.
Yeah, and with 2 young kids, she goes, is there anybody that could else? I said, yeah, I think so. I said, as a matter of fact, I really wanted to get you in because your benefit's coming up.
Yep.
And so I just, when is it? What's the date?
So our banquet is March 3rd.
Okay, I thought it was in February. So it's March.
It's March.
Okay,
it's
so
March
we got a little
3rd,
bit of time here.
A little bit of time. Okay. March 3rd, Monday night. We were in meetings Monday about it. Things are just coming into place. We're filming our video next week. So
Love you,
Barry Richards and Catherine and John will be there, and our people, it's funny how you feel like maybe you have an idea, but then God takes it to the next level. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably the word that I want to say is the Lord keeps saying next level, but we're working on all the things. And so we've got some really sweet things coming. We are going to have a guest speaker, and I talked to him yesterday. So we're working on all those things. So just really neat times for us. This is, we have been a trailblazing, what I would consider probably a trailblazing ministry, support in our community, but it never ceases to amaze me when we look at around us and go, okay, God, what's next? How do we serve you? How do we serve the kingdom? How do we love your people well? How do we impact the kingdom? And that's been a word that, and I'll tell you a couple stories from last year, but the word impact has been such a vibrant word through the year. Last year, double portion was something that you and I talked about, and end of year giving for us blew us away because
love it.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of numbers still. We have to wait about 2 weeks out to start getting a lot of our stuff because a lot of our numbers start accumulating. And so we're just kind of stepping back, just watching the Lord. We want to dedicate this year to the Lord and say, how do we serve you more? How do we serve you better? How do we love the unlovable that walks in our door? How do we make sure that baby has what it needs? And then, yes, Lord, we're going to take care of these families the best we can if they'll allow us to help them.
That's cool.
So
that is so cool. That is so cool. I love it. I love what y'all do there. If you're not familiar with, it's so funny. I had somebody at church, because I worked in capacity at church, and I did a lot of work in the immigrant community, and we would help with clothing and things like that, or furniture. People are always calling me, hey, I've got this and I need to get it to somebody. And since I'm not in that world anymore, I don't really know where it needs to go. But I had a friend of mine at church reach out to me. My daughter is cleaning out a bunch of baby clothes, and she just really wants it to go somewhere it can be used. And I pointed them to you, and they got to come and have a tour. Oh, they were just blown away. And this is from Madison, and we just don't have these things like what you're doing everywhere. And we need to have them in every single community, but they're just not there. And so it's so special that we have this here in Roberts County, guys. It is so special.
I got a text message yesterday that absolutely said that we need this in 2 other communities. So there's 2. You're the 3rd person in 2 days to tell me let's bring it. And I think what we've done is, when I talked to our guest speaker, he and I were having he just said, man, because I told him, I said, listen, this is about making an impact. This is what we're doing, across the board. I spoke to a mom yesterday, about her son. Now, is this the person, that's going to fit into a shoebox mold? So I want to kind of set this up right. I am not someone that fits in a box well.
Me either.
And I love my friend that wants everything in a box, and she's going to close the top. And when she needs to open it, she releases. And she's very much that type A, very, I just love her. And she keeps me on track.
Yeah.
And he and I were talking about the fact that I am not in a box, and the way that our center runs very differently than most pregnancy and resource centers. We have expansive services in different ways because of what our community needs are. And when we were speaking, it was funny because he said something about, you're just not, Shawn, I appreciate you. You're not in the box, and I started laughing. I said, yeah, I've blown the top off and all the confetti comes out. I mean, and that is where I think we have to know who we are and who our identity is in Christ, and then work within what God's anointed us to do. And so I've challenged my staff this year to find their calling, their anointing, their passion. And when we were, kind of navigating some of those things yesterday in a really important meeting at the first of the year, it was sweet to sit around the table, and I work with the most incredible bunch of women that God led to Open Door. It wasn't that Shawn went out and headhunted them. It wasn't that I prayed them in, and to watch God opening up their mind to really how he made them. Man, I got a front row seat to do that with staff, but also our clients. Yesterday evening, I was talking to one of our stars on our video, and I actually was going to interview another family member. And when she called me, and we've actually invited her into our program, it wasn't anything that she had to do. It was something that she requested to do as far as parenting and things. And this little girl started talking about how her home has turned a 180. Her son, her parenting style, everything has turned 180. And I was like, whoa. And one of my staff members goes, she would be great on the video. And I thought, wow. But the impact that I'm talking about is family and generational. It's not just a mom and a child. It's grandparents. It's future generations. It's learning to understand these kids, because we're in a generation of kids that have never been seen before. I live with one, So anyway, it was just for me, it was just an eye-opening conversation, and so it's really kind of sweet to watch that. Let's get back to the basics. Let's get back to that, how God's made you. What are you designed to do? And so it's really kind of sweet. What's your why?
Yeah.
That's my question all the time. What's my why?
Something's just in my head right now as you're sitting here talking, because, talking about, how things kind of came together at the end of the year, and just seeing and knowing you for as long as I have. And it seems like this past year has been one of just amazing opportunities, amazing growth, just God blowing you away. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely.
In this past year?
Well, and I think every year's been that way, but this year especially, like, we've watched things that we've prayed for come into fruition for years. And everything that we're doing is to better the services that we can provide. In December, we hired our nurse manager.
I love it. I'm so
excited. We received the week of Christmas, we received our second ultrasound.
That's so exciting. That is something we've been just dreaming of.
We've been dreaming it for years, and we've waited. Like, God had told me to wait. Like, don't get ahead of him. Don't run to the left. Don't run to the right. Don't streak ahead.
Yeah.
But just stand and wait and appreciate the moments. And so we received our second ultrasound the week of Christmas. It was delivered.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So Ann Weaver is our nurse manager. She is amazing. She's been an employee at Northcrest for years. She's going to continue working there and with us. So she is phenomenal. She's already come in. What we started kind of the groundwork and tilling the soil. She's come in and just taken off, and it's been beautiful to see her just kind of do that. I appreciate Penny so much to stand beside me and navigate some of those waters. And then here comes Ann, and she's just like, boom, let's do this. And
I love it.
Dr. Sal Lombardi is our medical director. And so we'll be able to provide some of those ultrasound services really soon. The Knights of Columbus came alongside of us and made sure we had our mobile ultrasound, which we'll be dedicating that as soon as we can get it unboxed. I think it voids a warranty if you unbox it, so we're waiting to get all that done.
Right. Okay.
There's a lot of little components, but we have just stepped back. So we had our mobile unit, totally.
I know that hit the
totally
road last year. So cool.
Hit the road. Now we have the ultrasound for it.
Oh, it's so cool.
It's going to be one of those years where, once again, it's unprecedented, and God's doing things that, like, we can't explain. When I was talking to somebody about how the Lord said that we were supposed to, grow the length of our tent so many years ago, he was part of this conversation. But Cheatham County is untouched with these services. And so we get calls, inundated calls. And so we're trying to just say, hey, if there's somebody that wants to start a center, we will help you, but we can't do it. But here's our mobile unit to come alongside.
We can come and go into the community. So.
Absolutely. So when we go to Cheatham County, when we go to these other communities, maybe there'll be a spark for somebody to help and do that. We want to undergird that. We want to bless them. We want to, work with them and do those things. So this is not, Open Door is not proprietary to Robertson County. We want to help others. I've got other folks that call me a lot that are, just saying, how are you doing what you do? And I'm like, well, this is what we do. And this is what our model looks like.
It's phenomenal. Yeah. If you've not visited, I encourage you to go out and just see the place and become a partner with them, and just make this something that you contribute to, because that's the thing. As much as you say that you were really blessed by the end of the year giving, what God will do with what he has multiplied just is blowing me away. And you've probably not even dreamed of what he's going to do yet.
No. Yeah.
I mean, you're just like, okay, God, what do you got?
We have a couple of things that we feel like we need to hold tight to us and say, right. Lord, help us uncover and discover and pray through. what he wants us to do, and how better to serve his people. I think that, one of the things that we talked about yesterday is how do we take the gifts that God's given us and pour back into the kingdom, pour back into families, pour back into babies and children. And, I have a family that we're dealing with that has a teenager, and somebody goes, well, that's not really in your scope of practice. Well, it is. When we can help that mother understand the trauma that's gone on in that family and make them, quote, informed, and then help them navigate and get them to the resources. This particular family needed to understand where they are, because when you're in the forest, you can't see the trees, you can't even see the sky half the time. And so when we could help them navigate and get them to some additional services, some counseling and some things and they're like, whoa, like, let's bring in the bulldozer. And so that's kind of where, we just want to say, this is what we can offer you, if you can take advantage of it or not, but our therapist is retiring actually this week. And so we will have a new therapist that's coming on board. We've got another one that's actually maxed out. She said, I can't take many more. And she said, I can take maybe 1 or 2 more kids. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So we're looking for an additional therapist that we can, have on a third party, we just refer, and we kind of work with those folks. But we have been on the search for that. So that's one of the things that we do desperately need is additional people to do therapy for us that we can contract with.
That's wonderful.
And we have the most beautiful gift that was given at the end of the year for services. So there was a really great donation that was given for some of those services that are so desperately needed. Mental health is probably one of the biggest needs that folks have,
Well, and talking with, and a lot of this, you were talking about the teens and stuff, talking with Tiffany Thompson and Safe Baby Court. And when she comes in, I'm going to reach out to Tiffany. I got to get her in here to get an
phenomenal.
Update. Incredible. And she was, she talks about the childhood trauma, and I forget what she calls it, but it's whenever they have those incidents that happen when they're 2 years old. And I forget, do you remember the name of it? It's like, it's an acronym, and I can't remember the acronym, but it's about those things that happen.
You're asking,
kids.
And I'm thinking, yes, I know what it is, but it's not coming to me.
Yeah, it's not coming to me, but you know what I'm saying?
Clicking.
There's an acronym that she talks about a lot, and that's the reason for the forming of Safe Baby Court is because so many times we have these little ones and we think, oh, they'll be fine. No. And so you have a teen that's come up from this and had that early childhood trauma that carries with them, and that it affects them as they start coming on the edge of adulthood, and it's just cyclical, and it's generational, and you've got to break the cycle.
I have many folks know that we adopted our sweet third child, and her trauma was from in the womb to 8 days.
Wow.
When she came in our home, there's no trauma. She had never bonded. She had withdrawal. And the only thing that she had was a foo-foo. So she actually left the hospital, and this was before they tested moms for any substance. And so she had left. The caregiver that had her told us her story, and it shook me because when she withdrew, she didn't get morphine. She didn't get the things that folks would typically get. She had a passy. She had one of those little teal green passies, and that's it. Now she's 9 years old and still has foo-foos, and she's literally, her therapist said, Miss Elmore, do not get rid of this foo-foo. You don't understand what that will do. It's traumatizing her. And then another therapist at 7 says, get rid of it. Well, she had full-blown panic attacks, sweating, getting rid of these things because that's all she had. And so we have to have very strict boundaries with them. They don't come out of the house. They don't go to school. They don't, there's certain things, but people don't understand. Now, as a mom of children that weren't born addicted and didn't have trauma in the womb, didn't have trauma through birth, didn't have trauma the first 8 days of their life, when we got her, this child didn't cry. She sounded like a little wounded animal and grunted barely. I mean, she didn't even make sounds because of some of the things that she probably had to endure. And so we are working with that lifelong. We will, there's, we've had to do so many different things now, and I've had to learn to reparent. And so some of my parenting education is now my education. I went to a therapist, and we had a family therapist, and we did somebody said do ABA. ABA does not work for my kiddo. We did PCIT therapy and things like that, but it was hilarious because she's like, well, you know this. I said, yeah, we kind of do these things, and I teach the stuff. And so she said, but I need you to facilitate it. Like, I had to go and be facilitated because, and I tell people all the time, I took parenting. It's okay. And what I learned, I can now give freely, just out of my own experience for these folks. And so it's easy to help identify that and say, hey, let's go to your doctor. Let's find a therapist. God doesn't waste anything. But that childhood trauma, she never had skin to skin until she found us at 8 days old. She didn't have, we did serve and return. We did the bonding with the eye-to-eye contact. The other day, we were coaching a young man that just got to meet his baby for the first time. His baby's several months old now. And watching that process, and I wish that I could pull my phone up right now because I have a picture of it. And let me tell you, like, it was like my staff and I just sat there and just were like, listen to that. And the baby started, when he was talking to the baby's, there's a response there. This stuff works. When we do reintegration therapy, we have a therapist that's really, really good that's leaving us. And so our new one's coming in. She said, we're going to work with that. She's taken some new courses and things, I'm sure. But one of the things that we do is we say we're not therapists to do reintegration, but we do a lot of therapeutic things to help that. So we've learned what those things are. I had a family a couple months ago that just was kind of lazy and didn't want to do what they wanted to do and said, oh, I'm not going to send, like, because I challenged our families, obviously. My scripture on my word the other day was Ephesians 4:15. It says, but speaking the truth in love, that we may grow up in the things unto him, who is the head, Christ himself, from whom the whole body joined together, corrected by every joint, every ligament, every part, effectively does work and grows in building up itself in love. And so we are designed for community, for communication, and to be loved.
Right.
We're loved from the Father. And so this mom has no attachment and no bond with her kids. It's very apparent. The children do not even respond to her. They respond to us as a parent. I mean, us as caregivers or at the visit house.
Right.
This child could not identify the mother. When we said, give mommy a hug, she was not identified by this child. And so what we found is, okay, let's push these limits and let's go, hey, let's help mom if mom chooses. I want to say this very loud. If mom chooses to do this, it really does work. And so, I challenged this parent to make sure that she was sending videos of herself, of her face, of her voice. We talked about doing FaceTime calls. The child's not in the home with the parent. And doing the supervised visitation, and we were having certain exercises be done. And I found out wasn't being done. And we do these things called mommy and daddy boxes, where it's almost like a play therapy over your phone, over exchange, because it's like, okay, I have a little thing of Play-Doh, and I'm playing Play-Doh, you're playing Play-Doh, and we're playing together. It works. Our therapist, we talked about it for my kid, and I know it works, but we watch the process with so many families now, and we really push them and the limits of what they think they can do, and watch that bond forming. It's beautiful. We had this mom's like, it's not working. And my husband, he doesn't really know what we do. I mean, he knows kind of, but we were talking just the other day. I talked to my grandkids, both my infant grandson, that's 3 months old now, and my 2-year-old granddaughter that turned 2 on Monday. They engage us on FaceTime. They know our voice. They know our face. We can walk around the house and have a conversation. I pick up objects. We talk about the big yellow bus, whatever that is. Every time my granddaughter, including yesterday, she walks in my office and she goes, let's play Play-Doh. I want to play Play-Doh, Yeah. And so it's that engagement. It's hearing my voice. It's seeing my face and things like that. So it works. But unfortunately, we're not seeing the engagement, and the effort sometimes. So it's a beautiful thing when everybody puts the effort in, because we are created to be loved. We're created to be talked to. We're created for that eye contact. And so many kids don't have that. They're, I had one lady that just, I never knew to pick my kid up and be in their face and speak to them and smile at them and be happy. When I get on that FaceTime with my grandson, he smiles at my husband. He hears his voice and he smiles. I have to kind of get in his face.
Yeah. But at that young age, and I've seen the same thing because I've got 4 grandkids, and I see the same thing too, the recognition of what they see. Even though I'm not with them, all that much, we come, walking in, they get us on the phone. It's that recognition, and they need that so much. And you're talking about the lack of it so much in so many ways for a lot of kids, being in the classroom and seeing those kids that very
These kids
obviously
are older, yes,
that very
that
obviously
won't make eye contact
never
with you.
had it,
yes,
and it breaks my heart. But that's one of the reasons I'm in the classroom, is so I can just try to make a connection with some of these kiddos.
Yeah.
But I'm going to double back to something, then I'm going to do a break, and you can help me brag on Barry and Rebecca Richards. But something you were saying about when we first started talking about how the growth that happened over the past year and just the amazing things that happened over the past year. In the fall, I was given the opportunity to listen to, as the Jewish New Year happened, and I forget exactly when that happens. I did not realize that last year was the year of the open door. Did you know that?
No. Whoa.
Last year was the year of the open door from the Jewish perspective, and that's what they taught. And Lisa Fort, the one who does the Redeem Her Now program, that we have them on once a month, and they're having, but they get together the first Friday of the month, and they have this thing up in Old Hickory. But she is the one who shared that with me, and I was like, that blows my mind. And what's really interesting now, this is the year of the open window, which is basically, and the rabbi that did the lesson on it said, it's reminding that there's always a way. We're finishing the year of the open door, but now God's always going to make a way. So look at the window, look at the open window for the new opportunity. But just listening to the way you were talking about how growth happened last year, in a way, it was the year of the open door.
Amen.
And here you are, open door. And so I'm just like, but it's not to say, oh, well, that year's over. Well, now he's opening a window.
Right.
There's always something. And sometimes I talk a lot about some of the things I've been studying. I love the analogy that Ray Vanderlaan, I've shared this analogy many times. He said a lot of people are looking at Scripture that grew up very legalistic, and their view has always been, say you're on the outside of a building, and you're looking through a window, and you see what you see, but then somebody goes, hey, come here. And they take you by the hand, and they walk you around to the other side of the building, and now you're looking through another window. You're looking into the same building, but now you see a completely different thing that you've never seen before. And so that's kind of, as I'm just sitting here listening to you talk, and you talk about this influx that you had at the end of the year, I think that's what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. It's like you had the year of the open door, now you've got the open window, and it's going to be, oh, I didn't see that. Mm-hmm. And you don't really know what God's going to do, but you're going, oh, okay. And so I don't know, just listening to you, I'm just thinking back on that lesson and going, wow. It just sounds like it's just laying out that exact way. Yeah. But does that make sense?
Absolutely.
But I'll have to send you a link to this lesson because it's really cool.
I have found that the more we seek God, the more He's just
He'll blow your mind.
He will. And my board, we have board meetings, and I'm like, well, this, and one of my board meetings just said, I'll never forget this board meeting, and I had a board member that said, as long as we're seeking the face of God, this is, the will of the Lord. And it's not selfish ambition or selfish intention. I think because we're looking at how to serve, God's people and
bring the kingdom down to earth.
The kingdom, for on earth as it is in heaven. Yeah. And that's something I've been saying a lot lately. But just in trueness, financially, the nonprofit world was hit very hard last year. It was a tremendous difficulty, and I know, and I'll say this, not to push any other organizations in our community, but my Father's House, not having them as a cold weather shelter right now, I'm seeing some folks that are really struggling with that, and so our goal is to support that ministry. We've always supported that, myself personally, and Open Door, but they're not even able to open right now, and I don't know all the logistics of that.
Either, I've got to get. I've seen so much about that,
but there's some things that are going on, and so it's just it's not that I know that we don't have a shelter in Springfield, but that is a cold weather shelter. So when it's like this morning, and I was driving through town, it was dark. I had to run to my office, and I thought about folks, and I thought, oh, it's so cold. I hope somebody's in, And so, it's one of those things that, I feel like we have to be supportive, and we can't outgive God. And we've always been one to, to be generous. And so I had somebody yesterday that just said, hey, my kid's eating so much. Do you have any of this formula? We gave them our last 2 cans of formula. I'm like, absolutely. Families are struggling. And, the Lord has called us to be a storehouse, and we are going to pour out. And the community has been so generous to pour in. And then I looked at him as I'm walking him out the back door, and I said, hey, I've got some extra diapers, and they're a size that really we just have such an abundance of. And it's like God is giving us a blessing, and we give out of not only abundance, but out of lack. And the Lord literally brings things in the famine. Like when things are absolutely at nothing, we'll just get a ton of stuff. I mean, it's insane. This year at Christmas, like we didn't get the normal stuff that we did, but we got what we needed for folks. It's so beautiful to watch. It's just amazing. We do a lot of things that nobody really knows about, and I'll tell you about that. I know you got to do a commercial, so remind me, and I'll tell you about my little buddy soon.
Okay, we'll do that. But right now, you mentioned Barry just a little bit ago, because this is probably the 4th or 5th year now that he's done the video for the event. And, I call him all the time. I almost hate to bother him sometimes because I have all these audio video questions, because it's like I was reminding my kids yesterday.
Because he is at the pinnacle, honey. He's at the top.
You can't. I mean, you cannot surpass it, because he worked for 17 years as vice president of a media marketing company. So when you get that marketing background that he has, and you want to present property, he has just stayed on top of drone technology, walkthrough tours, videography, photography. And it's like I was telling my students yesterday, some of the newbies, that audio and video touches every aspect of our lives. Because of the digital society and because of the social media, you need it. And having a friend like Barry around that you can talk to about how to do that stuff is priceless. So now bring that to your real estate team. If you're working and you've got property that you want to present, I joke around about how that people shop for property like they date. They do that little flip through. And if your video, the things that you have presenting your property don't pop out, you may never get another chance on those. And we'll be into a season again where it's going to be very competitive for different properties, and they're going to be growing very fast. And you still have that to some degree, not like we did a couple of years ago, but you want to make sure that the right eyes see your property in the best light. Same thing with working with Open Door and any of the nonprofit stuff that they do. They want to make sure it's presented in the best light so people go, oh, I need to know more about that. So you bring that to your real estate team. It's priceless. And you've got Rebecca. She switched over to real estate many, many years ago. She came out of radiology, of all things, and had been doing real estate part-time, and finally said, I got to do this full-time. And she was looking for a company that had all the things she needed, and that was Exit Realty. So they were part of the Garden Gate team for a long time. And then when he opened the brokerage office here in Springfield, they combined that with her office in White House, her agency office, and brought us a new branch in the Exit tree. Still part of the Exit team, but they are Exit Prime Realty. So if you want to get in touch with them, if you want to just have some folks that can really work with you and help you in any capacity, Barry Richards, Rebecca Richards, Exit Prime Realty. You can look them up. You'll find unique Facebook pages, web pages, or if you want to give Rebecca a call, here is her number, 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425. They're in Cross Plains, have been for nearly 30 years. So they are Robertson Countyans, and they specialize in Robertson County properties, but they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky because they've worked all over. They're originally from Kentucky, just like me. So they know their stuff. Reach out to them today. Sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy, B-U-Y, RobertsonCounty.com. As always, we say, please let them know that U-Turn sent you. And the way you unpack that, it was kind of like, okay, this is a secret for now, but okay. We can hold it. No worries.
I'll tell you, I had a really sweet friend that came in, and his comment was he didn't know that I helped another friend of his. So an acquaintance of his or a friend of his, he looked at me, he said, I'm going to tell you, he said, I was shook the other day. He said, this gentleman made a comment and said that they really helped me. And he said, I had no idea the length and the art and the width of what you do. And I started laughing. I said, well, sometimes you don't know, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, So that's what, that's what we want to make sure that we make that impact in families. And, when we see a family that we've worked with out in the community, unless they approach us, we don't approach them. And we were very, anonymity is very sweet to us and things like that. But I love when these folks, when I called and this lady that I spoke with and this sweet little gentleman that I'm going to interview, but it was like, anything I can do, Miss Shawn, because of the way that, you guys impacted us. And it was, how did we impact, and we could not have impacted, Open Door could never have impacted these families without our community, without the Lord first and foremost, but our community, because, we have a donor that, out of the blue will just, the donor said, hey, I want to embrace your staff. Here, take your staff to lunch. Here's it is the neatest thing sometimes how things, come about, but the investment in our people, the return on investment in our staff that we've seen, then return on investment in our people. So, I don't sell products. People don't come into my office and buy things. I don't have a business like that. We're very business minded. If it wasn't for the folks that came before and challenged me to be the leader that I am, thank you, Dr. Matt Browning, I would not have, been able to navigate last year. We went to a conference and we had people saying, how are you all doing this? We are so low on funds. We're throwing together a last kind of ditch effort type of, fundraiser. We've got to have $40,000 for this or whatever. And we've been graciously blessed by the Lord himself, but by this community to say, hey, if you need something, let me know. Or, we've been able to just be very good stewards. Last year we were under budget. Thank God. I don't, my accountant, Miss Linda, said, I don't know how you've done it, but you're under budget. And I'm like, I don't know how I've done that.
Yeah.
I've just being able to pull back. I looked at my staff and said, hey, if you're not busy, we're going home. I mean, somebody said, you have so many staff members. And I said, okay, let me explain that. They're all part-time. I did move somebody up to full-time this year, but just because I need some extra support. But, we really just we're part-time. I have a couple ladies that work 10, 15 hours a week, So, but the dynamics and the beauty of what those people look like and what that army of women and people that can come in there and do that profession. It's beautiful. I love it.
Tell me this, as you're talking about the different folks, you do have staff members, but from a volunteer perspective, what do you need? And really, sitting here right now, what do you really need from the community right now, would you say?
Obviously, community support is always, I laugh, and the first thing I always say is, I pray that people pray for us. Like, put us on your prayer list. I mean, that's first and foremost for me. That would be if you said, what's the number one thing are you desperate? No, we're not desperate, but yes, that's what we want is your prayer support. Yeah. Educating yourself on our services, come take a tour, come talk to me, come talk to my staff, things like that. Those are things. So when folks are in need and you see that person at Walmart and you get this little unction to say, ooh, somebody needs help, or you see that person holding a sign at Walmart, you can give them information. Unfortunately, sometimes those folks are not real honest, but there are other times that people really are desperate, and so we want to make sure that we have those resources available and that you are aware of them. So that part of that mission ministry type thing would be wonderful. Always financial support. Obviously, we are a nonprofit. We take no government funds at all. We had the opportunity to take some government funds, and because of some of the strict guidelines and some of the things, we just made a decision that was not what we needed to do. And I'll be honest, last year about June, I thought, Lord, what did I do? Yeah. And no, God just said, no, you just sit still. You stand, in Ephesians 6, it's when you've
stand.
done everything else, when you've done everything, you just stand. And so we did that, and the Lord came, and, we had to take some reserve funds last year. And, when I got a call to, going to have to transfer money, I was like, oh, we're going to have to lay people off. It's the human side of us that, and I just, you throw your hands up, you open your hands, and you say, Lord, help me receive this. And by the end of the year, there was some things that came in that were just exactly what God wanted to do. So
it's in telling your story from the very beginning of how that, you got involved, and then how you expanded to the building and all these things that were just impossible. And then God sent exactly what you need. There's a multitude of those stories that you've told me over the years. It's phenomenal.
Well, and LaVern, honestly, God had always said to me there would be a cloud of witnesses. And there's not a story one that doesn't have witnesses. It's not just Shawn's rumored story. It is a cloud of witnesses.
I love it.
And so, let's let God be God. Let him tell his story, and let us just sit on and be witness. Let us just sit back and watch. Sometimes in a football game, you just are a spectator. I myself I love going because I want to be part of the crowd. I want to wear my cute little sparkly UT jersey. Yeah. And I want to cheer them on, but I have no idea what's going on that field half the time. I am not a football person. My husband is a orange-blooded UT fan from the word go, and so I like to go and just watch the crowd. I'm a crowd watcher. I'm watching I'm looking at who's wearing what and what and all that, and I'm watching the when you go to Neyland and it fills up. There's just something about that energy and the fun that or you think about a concert, and I think about the fact that years ago, we had to sit up in the nosebleeds, right? Because we're a young couple, and gosh, we're going to run to a UT game, and man, we are at the pinnacle top, and it is, it's cold, it's windy, it's bad, and I'm like, now that we're a little bit older, and you make a little bit more money, a little more settled, and we can kind of, we can have a seat that's a little closer, but think about the front row seat that we get with Jesus when he's doing his work and
every day
and watching the game of life. I mean, that is where I sit back and I'm in awe. Like I get to watch a mom bond with her kid, or a dad that gets to hold his child for the first time. I mean, you talk about a gift. I called an attorney, right? I guess it was the 23rd, somewhere around there. This is maybe the Friday before Christmas. I called an attorney, and this attorney, literally, I said, I got to see this, and I got to really share what happened in this visit. And he said, I can't believe you got this guy in. And I said, well, Merry Christmas. And my staff was for that. We got to see a mom that's got to see her kid, and she hadn't seen her little boy in like 2 years. And several years ago, I'm going to just say this, we had a dad that was wanting to see his children. It was a very bad situation, but the children wanted to see him. And so it was just a mess. End of the day, I went to court with the attorney, with the guy, with the family, and a sweet judge from our community just signed off. Had no idea. I didn't get to talk to that judge. I just stood there and said, we'd like to do a supervised visit, and signed off. And later, I don't think that judge understands the power of that pen, because what I witnessed was a dad that walked out of our doors on Meadowbrook, got down on his knees, and his kids, that little girl, wrapped her arms around him and hugged him and held him and screamed and jumped up and down and said, I asked Santa to see you.
Oh my goodness.
And the little boy that was 5 years old said, I'm not crying. Because dad's bawling, the little girl's crying. He's crying because I'm a tough guy. I'm not crying.
Oh my gosh.
And he's bawling. That, you can't give me a gift wrapped in a box. You can't give me,
That's
anything
amazing.
that was a spiritual gift from the Lord. That was just a hug and a kiss from Jesus that said, hey, keep doing what you're doing. My staff that was there, we all looked at each other and were like, you can't, like, whoa. Like, the hard year that we had last year, getting to see this mom and getting to see the little boy run up and hug his mom, man, it was a sweet moment. So those are moments that you can't put a price tag on, you know, and I praise God for the group that comes together and says, hey, I want to give 20, or the individual that says, hey, I want to give $5 a month through ACH, or the one that says, I don't have, like, I have people who give a widow's mite. I mean, truly sacrificing their blessing to us. And I mean, there are months that my husband and I are true sacrifice, you know, but we give back. I can truly say that 100% of my board, 100% of my staff, and my volunteer, even our volunteer pool, Vern, actually give back in some financial way. It is incredible. So
while you're mentioning that, how can people give if they wanted to become a monthly? I know you on the cards that you have at the dinner. There's opportunity to say if you want to do a one-time gift, you want to do a reoccurring gift, and things like that. But say that because the dinner fills up and you get packed. Where are we going this time?
I'm gonna be real honest. We've moved to Springfield to the Civic Center here in Springfield.
Oh, to the center.
To the center. We've had
room.
to because we had to turn people away last year.
Yeah, and I get that.
And so this year, our hope is to fill up the center. We've never done anything at the centers other than the Chili Challenge, but we've never done a banquet there. So it's at the center this year, and so we're really kind of going to see how it comes out.
Well, I think you'll pack it out. What's your capacity then? How many are you?
We're not sure. We're still working on table arrangements and how many we can hold.
Okay.
But we will tell you this. We cannot mail out invitations. So what we've done is we've mailed out save the dates, and they went out this week, and it's going to be in your mailbox probably for either Friday or first of the week.
Right.
We have done a save the date, and we have done a you better call for a reservation, because if you don't call, you're not going to have a seat.
Okay.
I already have people that have called and said, I want to host a table. Don't forget me. So
I will do whatever you need me to do. If you need me to host a table, I'll be glad to. If you would rather let somebody else host a table, if you need me to come and bus tables, I will do that.
I appreciate that.
You know, just whatever you need, because and it's one of those things, but it just fills up. But it's an amazing time, and that is a perfect opportunity to give. But if you end up not getting a reservation, if it's just packed out and you can't go, what do we need to do if we want to get on?
Contact us.
Okay, so tell them the easiest way. I mean, we're not quite out of time yet, but we're getting close. So how can they contact you if they want to
call
give?
us, you know, and the reason why is because we can verbally talk to you like that. People don't, you know, we've lost the art of communication.
I agree.
So calling us is wonderful. 615-384-4673, and then
number
ask
again.
for me. 615-384-4673, and ask for me, Shawn Elmore, and I would love to speak with you. You know, that's the thing. We've lost the art of communication. We have a guy that walked in and did a tour that I had no idea, and so that's probably the best, you know, way to get a hold of us. You can scan a QR code, but you don't see a face. You can walk in our building every day of the week and really see the people we impact.
It'll blow your mind.
Yeah. We have people like the guy that looked at me, he goes, I love seeing those babies out there. He said, when I give, and I said, well, it goes to that child out there. I mean, that's how that works. That's how that works.
So just keep all that in mind, and if you want to, you know, be a part of the big event, of the big gala, like what do you exactly call it?
It's an annual banquet. It's a banquet.
Annual banquet.
It wasn't a gala or gala because of but, you know, Northcrest did all their stuff, so we just kind of went in with the banquet because we didn't want to. You know, we want to always, you know.
But it's so special, and so who's doing the food this year? Do you know that yet?
Yeah, Miss Kim at she's done it the last couple years.
Okay. Don't do. I mean, I put you on the spot. Yeah. Say again.
Miss Kim. So we don't even know the menu yet. We've got some things coming, but I have not decided the menu. Amy Singleton is that. So we haven't set as a committee. We looked at each other and said, let's figure this out. So our caterer, Miss Kim Jones, is phenomenal. She'll bring something good. She always does.
Always.
And then, you know, she catered our volunteer food this year, and people were like, I said, she just makes good home. It's almost like you get a hug in your belly.
Yeah,
you know? That's what I always
it's
say.
very good.
And I tell people all the time, I want people to have a hug.
Yeah,
you know, I want them to know that they sat around our family table.
So tell them to save the date again if you want to come to the big banquet at the center is what day again?
Save the date is March the 3rd, 2024. And 2025.
I know.
Call if you need to reserve a spot. Call the office 615-384-4673.
One more time on the number.
615-384-4673.
And tell them the address of the Open Door Pregnancy and Resource Center. So if people want to drop in,
absolutely.
And the hours.
The address for our Pregnancy and Resource Center is 1109 South Main, Springfield, Tennessee.
Very good. And what are the hours? Give me the hours.
We're there every day except for Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday.
Typically, what time do you open?
We open. The door says 10 for clients, but we're there by 8.
Okay.
We're there.
So just stop in, and it is if you've not toured it, oh my goodness, you just do not know what you're missing. It is fabulous. It is one of the best blessings we have in this community. This is one of the reasons why Robertson County is just so wonderful. I have so many people talk about the special community we have here, and a lot of the times, almost every time, Open Door comes up in conversation because it is, and I've used this analogy many times when we first started going to Mexico, the reason why we go down there and we do these clinics from the churches down the Baja Peninsula is because we're trying to improve their communities from the inside out. Because we were trying to come up with a way to see if we could lessen the need of the City of Children, which is an orphanage for kids in Ensenada. And it's like, well, if we can help them in their community to where they can keep their kids and not have to take their kids to an orphanage. Because a lot of times it's not kids that are orphaned, but the parents cannot take care of them. If we can help them from the inside out, what a difference it makes. And it has made a phenomenal difference. And as I started going down there, I was like, why can't we do this here? And then I met you, and I'm like, we are. And that's what's happening. This is changing the community from the inside out. Because I've touched my toe in the political waters, people are always going, what can we do to make a difference? That's what you do to make a difference. You change your community from the inside out. Partnering with Open Door Pregnancy and Resource Center is a way to do that. So thank you, Shawn.
Yes,
always
ma'am.
Wonderful. Lee Marie's coming in here and kicking us out. And while she's standing here, I have to thank her for covering for me 7 days over Christmas. She was keeping the fires burning here at 1 Street Over. Thank you so much, sister. Appreciate you so much. And she's coming on with the Ghost Show right after. Just let us make the transition here, so stick around. This is 1100 WSGI. Stay tuned for the Ghost Show. And join me tomorrow.